Good morning and welcome to the Fort Mill Town Council regular meeting, May 24th at 7:30 a.m. Beautiful weekend was had by all, and we just hope everyone is ready for this work week. If you would, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then we'll have an invocation. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Holy Father, thank you so much for all that you bring to us on this beautiful day. Please help us to do the work of the town, being fair to all and remembering all. Thank you for the summer that's ahead of us and the relief that we are beginning to feel from the COVID virus. Thank you for each and every council member. Please lead, guide, and direct us to work together. Amen. All right. I know we have Trudy, Chris, Ronnie, Lisa, and myself. Okay, and I have one running late, sorry. Council members, you have been provided the minutes of the May 10th Town Council meeting. Does anyone have any corrections, changes, deletions, or additions?
Hearing none, I move to approve. Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right, thank you. Public comment. Pursuant to Section 246 of the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Fort Mill, any citizen of the town may appear before council for the purpose of providing public comments on any municipal matter except personnel matters. Those who wish to speak must sign in outside of council chambers prior to the start of the meeting. To maintain social distancing, citizens will only be allowed into council chambers one at a time to give their comments. David, do you have any citizens wishing to speak this morning?
No, Mayor.
All right. We're going to move then right into presentation number one, presentation of fiscal year 2019 audit. David Phillips, partner, Green Finney, LLP. Good morning.
Good morning. Let me see if I can get the camera here working. Sometimes it messes up, so it's working now. So good. Well, sort of. Can someone share? Yeah, there we go. I was wanting to share screens here so that. Can y'all see the PowerPoint?
Yeah, no,
not
yet.
All right, that's the wrong screen. So let me see if I can. Well, you know what? I'll just move it over to that screen.
There you go.
All right, great. Hopefully, you have received, a copy of the financial statements. In the past, sometimes many years ago, we would try to walk through the whole financial statements, but it's so long and laborious. We moved more to a PowerPoint presentation because, we're able to kind of hit the high points. And in a lot of ways, too, you've already moved on to further years and budgets and so forth. So if you don't mind, we will walk through this PowerPoint. But if you have any questions as we go through, please feel free to interject. Or if you would like to wait to the end, that will work as well. We like to remind everybody of the importance of internal controls. We want there in any organization that there's checks and balances. And so, of course, that is something that's very paramount for Shantae and David and the staff, is to make sure that there's strong internal controls within the town. These are the town's financial statements. And so when we move to the next slide, we look at our responsibility as the auditor. As the auditor, we're to do an audit. We look at things from a materiality standpoint, and we give you reasonable but not absolute assurance, because remember, we're not looking at every single transaction. We're looking at samples and then, of course, the significant transactions. And then the last bullet point there is that you have received an unmodified opinion. I know that's kind of a strange term, but that's actually a good term. If we modified our opinion we would say everything looks good except for something, and you really don't want one of those. So you have an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion that there is. All right, well, let's look at your next slide. I know that this is probably one of the key measurements or drivers for the town. The total fund balance increased 1.1 million to 12.1. I think that chart on the right really helps you kind of see how you've tracked, over the past few years. Now, remember, we're looking at 9/30/19. So again, I know you're all the way up into 21. So I want to make sure you're realizing this is at that point of time. You have some other categories of fund balance, kind of some nominal ones. But the biggest piece, when we flip over here or flip over to the next slide, is your unassigned fund balance. And that balance is 11.9 million, which is 65% of your 2019 actual expenditures and about 54% of your 2020 budgeted expenditures. Now, if you remember back to fiscal year 19, you also, near the end of the year, transferred $5 million into your capital projects fund, and that's already been taken out. So your unassigned would have been even higher if you hadn't set aside some of those monies for some future capital projects. The GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, they recommend a minimum of 2 months. And you remember your town fund balance policy recommends right around 25 to 30%. So you can see regarding every measurement, you really have a very strong fund balance. All right, so why do you want to maintain a strong fund balance? Well, remember, some of your revenues are cyclical. Think about your business licenses. Think about your property taxes. Those bills go out in October. All the real ones, most people will either pay in December if they want the tax deduction, or they'll pay in January or February. And then you really don't collect a lot more real property taxes until the next cycle. The big item here that's really hit home to a lot of communities is the last bullet point there, is related to the health pandemic. A lot of people that maybe only kept a month's worth of fund balance, they have a new perception or importance of maybe having a stronger fund balance, because when there's tough times, you're going to have cash to carry you until the economy recovers and so forth. All right, well, let's look briefly at your general fund revenues. They were $23.1 million. We kind of showed the various categories there, the biggest being property taxes. But then again, you have a whole bunch in 7.2 million in fines, fees, licenses, and permits. A lot of those are more, I would say, economy driven, depending on how the economy doing. And then you have some of those other revenues that you see there as well. Your revenues came in about 7% or 1.5 million over the prior year. And again, assessed value, property tax growth has just been very strong within the town. As it relates to budget, you came in much higher than budget by 2.8 million or 14%. And again, property taxes, business licenses, building permits, a lot of those growth revenues were strong, but also you've been getting these heavy equipment fees as well, and that has grown into a very big revenue source for the town as well. But again, look at the chart and you can kind of just see too how your revenues have trended over the past few years. All right, we'll move into expenditures. Your total expenditures were 18.2 million. You can see the biggest category, of course, that being public safety, but then a good bit in public works and general government. Generally, we see public safety being around 40 to 60%, depending on the municipality. Your expenditures increased to 1.5 million or 9%, but remember, probably the number one driver for your expenditures is your staff cost. And as you grow, you're having to add, of course, new positions. Remember the 3% COLA and other salary adjustments that took place back in 19, and then, of course, just higher operating costs. As it relates to your budget, You came in 3.4 million or 16% under budget. And honestly, of all probably the bullet points within this slide presentation that would be the most important to me if I was a council member would be that, because if I approved a budget, I would want to see that my management adhere to the budget. And they did a great job. They're way under budget. But again, if they ever needed to spend more, then I would expect that they would come back and we would have a budget amendment so that we could approve any additional expenditures that were needed. All right, let's move on to the next slide. We're just going to hit some highlights on some of the other major funds. Your capital projects fund had a net increase in fund balance of 3.4 million compared to about 4.6 million in the prior year. Don't have a lot of revenues going on there, but you are earning some good interest on the monies that you're holding there. But you had a good bit of expenditures going on related to the fire station and the amphitheater. Remember earlier we talked about how you transferred out of the general fund about 5 million, but you also transferred about another 900 for some of your other impact fee funds as well for current and future capital projects. So again, you're setting aside funds for these projects, not just current projects, but for some that you're planning in the near future. All right, let's move on to your enterprise funds. You had the gross revenue fund, which your water and sewer fund, had an increase in net position of 4.2 million compared to 7.4 million. A lot of times what varies a little bit there is the amount of donated infrastructure that you get from year to year. Remember, as communities build infrastructure, water and sewer pipes, and once they're inspected and approved, the city will take ownership of that infrastructure, and that will come through as a donated capital asset. So again, sometimes the increase in your net position from year to year is impacted significantly by that. We mentioned here about your operating revenues were up about 5%. Again, higher water and sewer sales, but you still have a lot of growth, and those generate a lot of tap fees for the town as well. Your operating expenses were approximately 3.3 million higher than the prior year, and you had a really large water meter replacement program of a little over $2 million. And again, if those meters are not over your capitalization threshold of $5,000 per meter, they get expensed, they don't get capitalized. And so that drove a good bit of the higher expenses for fiscal year 19. Then, of course, you do have the capital contributions, the donated infrastructure we mentioned earlier of about 2.3 million related to fiscal year 19. As it relates to your stormwater fund, you had a slight increase in net position of about 100,000. Really not a ton of unusual activity there. Everything pretty consistent with prior years there in your stormwater fund. All right, let's move on down. We're going to briefly look at your net pension liability. Remember back around, it started in roughly year 2015 for most of our local governments in the state, but the GASB, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, they took the position that if local governments participate in state cost-sharing pension plans, that those participating governments would need to record their proportionate of the asset or the liability related to those plans. Unfortunately, the state of South Carolina has a very large, liability, and so your proportion of that liability increased to $19.3 million. And how that gets allocated, just so that you are aware, is they look at all the contributions that you pay into the PIBA each year as a percentage of all PIBA contributions paid in by all governments. And whatever that percentage is, you get that percentage of the liability. Also, if you're growing a lot as a government, which you are, the town is, you will, of course, get a higher percentage each year. So again, that is what's driving some of that increase as well. There's a lot of note disclosures in the notes about this, but the real big point here is the second to the last bullet point there, is that the way that this hurts you long term is that rates are being increased. And so that every year David and Shantae are having to add another 1% of your salaries to be the budget now for your pension contributions, because they're raising these rates in hopes that they're going to be collecting enough at the state level that will begin to lower the pension liabilities on the state level. And if those pension liabilities on the state level decrease, so would also your percentage of those liabilities. All right, we'll move on to the next slide. I want to briefly look at your capital assets. Have a ton of activity going on there this past year in 19. You had an increase in capital assets of 12.2 million. You had additions of 15.1, and then depreciation expense going the other direction. But you had a lot of construction in progress. We talked about some of the infrastructure donations and some other cash improvements you made. But the big projects there are listed kind of in that last bullet point, related to the park upgrades, amphitheater, the fire substation. Remember, you had the water tank project ongoing and the wastewater treatment project ongoing as well. And again, remember, a lot of those water and wastewater are going to continue for a good bit of time. There's still a lot of funds and a lot of construction still coming related to those projects. All right, well, let's look at your long-term obligations. They increased 18.8 million. If you remember for year 19, you had a couple of debt issuances in your water and sewer fund. You issued about 16.1 million in revenue bonds. And then you also have a state revolving fund loan that you will ultimately could borrow up to $30 million, but you had only borrowed as of September 30th of 2019, about 2.7 million. So you can see there's still a lot of borrowing capacity on that state revolving fund loan that's coming. Then also, in addition to those borrowings, of course, you make your annual mortgage payments, and those were in the premium amortization was about 1.3 million in fiscal year 19. Your debt service payments for fiscal year 20 were about 2.6 million. And again, you have a rate covenant related to your gross revenue fund, and you met that very, very easily. You have one of the highest rate covenants that I'm aware of. So again, a very strong, water sewer operation there. All right, let's just mention again, we all know that the COVID hit pretty much right after the fiscal year 19 year, and we just want to remind people, we think we're getting on the back end, of course, of COVID, but again, if new variants or if somehow there's a resurgence in COVID, remember, it can have a big impact on local governments. But the thing that is the fact that you have such a strong fund balance, and you're able to weather those type of storms much better than, again, if you didn't maintain adequate reserves there. All right, wanted to mention some accounting changes. There are really not a lot of auditing changes, but the accounting changes is that starting next year, I should say fiscal year 21, the GASB has issued a new statement where they want to kind of move certain funds around within the financials. So the total really doesn't change, but certain things that might be shown in the general fund or in an agency fund maybe need to be moved into a new category. But for one of the activities, the town's firemen's 1% monies, those will now need to be reflected in the financial statements going forward, either as part of the general fund or as a special revenue fund. So there, again, the GASB is trying to provide better clarity so that all governments are treating these activities very similarly instead of dissimilarly. Also, there's a new standard coming out on leases, and that lease standard is just going to want all governments to treat long-term leases that are material as debt on your statement of net position. So again, they don't want it just to be talked about in the notes. They want it to be they want people to be able to see what is that commitment, what is that liability related to the lease recorded on your balance sheet and the right to use assets. So again, that will be a change coming as well in the near future. Wanted to mention a couple of items here. We did have a couple of findings. One was related to capital assets. You know, the city, or the town, I should say, receives a lot of donated assets, infrastructure, and sometimes that information is never passed on to finance, or maybe it's known in one area of the organization, but not the other area. But there was some significant donated infrastructure and assets that had to be recorded. And if there's some significant adjustments like there, we just have to make you aware that those adjustments were, added to the financial statements for fiscal year 19. Also related to bank recs, remember you had a big Munis project going online. The staff just kind of fell behind trying to deal with all the complexities of the software implementation. Now, they have called up for fiscal year, of course, 19, and they're working now on totally getting everything ready for the fiscal year 20 audit as well. But I think, a lot of that stuff is going to be able to be, rectified now that they've got the system really kind of more customized for them and they understand it better. As it relates to a single audit, you remember you expended a good bit of state revolving fund monies, and some of those monies were federal. And so we had to do a single audit related to those federal monies, and we did not come across any issues related to compliance related to those revolving fund loans. We did have also one recommendation related to some bond proceeds. Initially, the bond proceeds were put into just your normal gross revenue fund. And if you look technically from the bond document, it wanted those monies to be set up in a separate bank account. Your staff now has moved that, and it is in a separate bank account, but we just wanted to make you aware as of September 30th of 2019, it was at that time they were all held together, but they've been subsequently moved and addressed and moved to a different account. Last slide here. Again, an unmodified opinion. I know it's a strange term, but again, that is a good term. And again, you really have very strong financial condition as of the end of 19. Now, I know I kind of go quick, so I'll open the floor for any questions that Shante, that you can ask Shante. I'm just kidding. You can ask me, but go ahead if there are any questions.
Council, do you have any questions?
I did have one on slide 11, where you were talking about the intergovernment revenue. Can you explain a little bit more of what that is and where that comes from?
Slide 11. Which slide was that, or is it back here to this here?
Slide 10 or 11, I can't tell on the iPad. It's a little bit off.
If you're talking about the intergovernmental revenue, I think most of that is that heavy equipment fee revenue. And remember, intergovernmental revenue too would be small grants, like SAFER grants and so forth. And the grant type of portion of that line item can vary a lot year over year. Because one year you might get a big grant for SAFER and it goes for 2 years and then it goes away. And so again, but the biggest piece of that intergovernmental revenue is that heavy equipment fee monies that you're getting. And that was over, correct me if I'm wrong, Shante, I think it was well over 2 million. Any other questions on that?
No further questions?
Can I ask one?
Sure.
I know each year I always ask about the overall net income of in the audit, but looking at the 89 page, where would that be in this document? Just, you don't have to go explain it all to me. You just give me the page.
No, sorry. What are you referring to, so I can help you?
Do you know what is the overall net income?
Oh, I'm sorry. Good point. Okay. So if you had the big financial statement, which is like he was mentioning is 80 or so pages. If you would turn to page 18,
Okay.
and there is a really good snapshot. And it's what I've tried to do a little bit. Let me flip back over here on your revenues and expenditures. On page 18, we kind of talk about your revenues and we talk about your expenditures, but you can see there what the net increase in your general fund was $1,063,000. Your capital projects fund, your other non-major funds. But remember, on your general fund, we transferred a little over $5 million into that capital projects fund. So again, your actual general fund change in net position or net income, if you want to use that term, would have been $5 million higher if you didn't go ahead and like seed money into that capital projects fund for future projects.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Any other questions?
Good job on that, y'all.
Yeah. Any further questions?
Now you can see why we don't go through that big financial, because there's so many pages. Sometimes when we used to do that a long time ago, it would just bog people down.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously.
All right. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation and for working with us. And Shante, thank you and staff for making us look good year after year.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Have a good day. All right, we'll move to presentation number 2, 2021 Summer Concert Series, Jacana Hester.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I am happy to present our 2021 summer concerts. We are going to be doing those on Saturdays on June 19th, July 17th, and August 21st. And the times for those are 6 to 9 p.m. We're going to have food trucks and DJs, a DJ beginning at 6 p.m. and then our bands will play beginning at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we're going to have a little music bingo during our DJ time, so that'd be a lot of fun. And our bands, our first one on June 19th is going to be Thurston Howe. And they sing yacht rock, which is a very popular genre right now. It's soft rock of the 70s and 80s, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. And they are a great band. And then on Saturday, July 17th, we're going to feature Daryl Harwood, who is a country artist. And then on Saturday, August 21st, we will feature Kids in America, and they are an ultimate 80s tribute band. And they've also played at the Strawberry Festival before, and they are really great. And then our food trucks, we're going to be having a rotating list of food trucks that will include the Poor Farmer, Kona Ice, Chancho's Tacos, Chickpeasy on Wheels, Pelicans, Chapel Snack Shack, 901 Pit Stop, and we have more coming too. We're going to have beer and wine at these events, and they are going to be served by Hobo's Restaurant and Amore Artists. And we're partnering with community organizations for the ID check and wristbands, and 2 of those are 809 Foundation and the Fort Mill History Museum. And we have decided we're going to have our summer concerts at Water Elijah Park this year due to increased audience size. And we had our Strawberry Music Flick and Food at the Water Elijah Park in the big open space, and that worked out really great. It was a great layout for that. And so we've decided to move our summer concerts there as well with the same layout. We'll have the stage and DJ, and we have our town tent at one end, and then the food trucks will be at the opposite end of the field, and that just for people to really be able to spread out well. And our suggested parking for the concerts will be Veterans Park, Looms Way, the new parking there, and our new Ardrey Street parking, as well as Calhoun Street Park. And then we are requesting town council approve the alcohol sales and consumption on these dates. And we're also requesting a special event permit for loud music and sound amplifying equipment for these dates, as you see in the town resolution. And we just thank you for allowing us to bring these events to our community. Our community has already been supporting everything that's going on, including the farmers market. And we're just looking forward to continuing to bring great events to our community in a safe and fun way.
All right, any questions for Jacana?
Yeah, I appreciate you having a concert on my birthday.
All right, thank you
birthday.
so much, Jacana.
July 18th.
We
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank
All
you.
right. We're going to move to old business item number 1, second reading, an ordinance to amend section 14-11 of the Code of Ordinances for the town of Fort Mill as it relates to candidate filing deadlines and fees. Chris Pettit is our expert. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept old business item number 1.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Chris, has anything changed since our first reading?
No, ma'am, there have been no changes.
Okay. Any questions?
Chris, have we received any comments from the public regarding this?
No, ma'am, there have been no comments from the public.
Great, thank you.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you so much. Old business item number 2, second reading. An ordinance annexing York County tax map number 70800000024 and 037 containing approximately 0.99 plus or minus acres located on 1029 Spratt Street. This is in Jamie Shire's ward. Penelope is our staff expert. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept old business item number 2.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion to approve and a second. Penelope, has anything changed since our and good morning. Has anything changed since our last reading?
Good morning, Mayor and council members. No, nothing has changed.
All right. Any questions for Penelope? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you. Old business item number 3, second reading, an ordinance adopting a mixed-use concept plan and development conditions for the Creighton Heritage MXU project. Ward 1, Jamie Shirey. Penelope again is our staff expert. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept old business item number 3.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
And I have a second. Penelope, anything change on this one since the last time we?
Yes, Mayor. The applicant determined that the existing parking area for the property was outside the limits of what would be allowed in the town. And so new language was inserted to allow them to use the existing parking lot. But they're providing more and enhanced landscape and screening beyond what would be allowed, what would be normally required by the town. So they did beef up the landscaping.
Okay. Any questions for Penelope?
Is that the proposed gravel parking you're talking about? Walk me through on the map where.
Sure. So in our ordinance, they have to have like a 25 landscape buffer, and because of where the existing parking lot is, with the gravel and also the existing that he has, he would not be able to meet that. And so instead of going to get a variance, because he has this is an MXU, we were able to get him to provide more of an enhanced landscape to protect the existing, residential either zoning or uses that surround that parking lot.
Okay.
Is that mainly along the back, Penelope, or also the road frontage?
It's on the road frontage as well, as you could tell with the evergreen trees that you see there on that map.
Yes. So Penelope, one concern I'm sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, so basically that buffer is helping screen from the residential and looking into the commercial site.
Okay. One concern I have is traffic coming in and out of this facility, being on the curve that it's on, is too much screening right at the place somebody's entering the roadway. Can we just try to make sure we monitor that and we're not blocking line of sight as they pull in and out?
Sure, we can make a note of that with the sight distance.
Okay.
No shrubbery.
Good
Yeah,
Lord.
exactly. Well, and that's my concern. It's one thing to be buffering, and I appreciate what the town's doing for that. But we also want to be sure as those shrubs grow, we're not blocking the line of sight of traffic coming around those curves. Because this is already, we do see a few accidents within this area because of the odd, road that's right up, the 3 roads that come in at a funny angle on it. So if we can just monitor that, through construction, and make sure that it's still as safe as possible.
This is etiquette.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further comments or questions for Penelope? Hearing none, the motion on the table is to approve, and we have a second. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you so much. We'll now move into thank you, Penelope. New business items. New business item number 1, 2021 Summer Concert Series Resolution. A resolution designating Walter Y. Elijah Park as a site of the public festival at which alcoholic beverages may be consumed, and to authorize a special event permit for live music and sound amplifying equipment on these dates: Saturday, June 19th, Saturday, July 17th, and Saturday, August 21st. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept new business item number 1.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions? This was covered in Jacana's presentation on the concert series.
No.
No
Just for
questions?
clarification, it shows that it ends at 9 o'clock at night, so we're still very early in the evening.
Absolutely. All right, hearing no further questions, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you. There are no information discussion items. We do, however, have an executive session. Please note that council may take action on executive session items listed on the agenda when they come back into public session. Our executive session today is discussion of a potential sale of real property. Do I have a motion to move into executive session?
So made.
Second.
All
Third.
right, all those in favor, please. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, thank you. We will return. All right, let the record reflect that no vote was taken during executive session. I need a motion to return to regular session.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you so much. And once again, we made no vote during executive session. So, just briefly, I did want to express the town's gratitude for those working on the bridge, that they were able to complete that project ahead of schedule. Just so very happy to try to get back to some sense of normalcy on our routes. Also wanted to say that our farmers market, this was the second or third week. It's going extremely well. Thank you all for your patronage, and it's a good program and event for Fort Mill. Our litter program, I think, is making a difference. I'm seeing less and less, and that is great. And if you haven't been by Walter Elijah, take a look at the amphitheater coming out of the ground. It is going to be beautiful. I'm so very proud that this council took that on and worked with staff and others to get it. It looks perfect to me. So, Jamie, do you have anything for the good of the whole?
No, ma'am.
Lisa?
No, just remember, school's going to be going for several more weeks. We're not going to get out as early as usual, so kids will be restless and running crazy for a little while, so please be careful on our streets.
Absolutely. Ronnie?
I had a question. On the amphitheater, are we gonna lease it out for, other venues, concert?
We will be putting in,
I was asked that question, actually.
yes. Mr. Moody?
Went to the Catawba Ridge Copperhead softball game. They won 10-0 in 5 innings, and I think they play tonight, Lisa,
They
right?
play tonight as well as Fort Mill,
Yep.
both of our high school
Home-
girls
are they home
teams.
games?
I think both
Incredible.
are home,
Yeah.
yeah. So both of our girls softball teams are really
Go-
doing well,
Go
and
girls.
And
our athletic programs are doing great in
Yeah.
schools.
they truly are. I know our track team also did a phenomenal job, with their state performance. So,
I heard Sam Ridge
Rich.
got the state record again for the mile,
it's
just
incredible.
over 4 minutes.
He's
I mean,
amazing. He is
That's crazy.
amazing.
That is moving.
I heard they almost got the shot put record.
Yeah, it's crazy how
Oh,
good.
man, it's over there.
And, you know, given that last year things were so interrupted, these kids have really hung on and are out there working hard and performing, and I'm so proud of them. And I know that each and every one of us wants to congratulate them on their successes.
That's what they-
Before we close, Davey, do we want to mention Memorial Day program?
Yes, the Memorial Day program will take place Monday morning on the 31st, May 31st. It begins at 9 a.m. It will take place in Unity Cemetery along Morrow Bradford Drive.
Is it open to the public?
It is open to the public, and we would love to have the public come out. We will have the Fort Mill American Legion will be partnering with the town to help present this program, as well as recognizing all soldiers in the Fort Mill area. So we're looking forward to it. We are keeping our fingers crossed for good weather, but would love to see as many come out as possible to enjoy this very important program.
I think this year, we're doing it a little differently. Last year we had to, because of COVID, so we did a videotaping in the cemetery, and it just seemed appropriate to take a look at how we could emphasize the importance of those that gave their lives, all of us. So I think this year's program is going to be very special. So that's Monday morning, May 31st at 9 a.m. Any other items Trudy, do you have anything for the good of the whole?
I was just gonna ask about the 9 a.m. Is that when the actual, meeting or the actual, program starts?
I think so, Trudy. That's usually when we publish a time, that's usually how we start.
What we can do is, if everyone listening into the meeting would please check our town website and our Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, we will be promoting this event all week long.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is because at the American Legion, one night this week, they gave another time. So I'll get with them and make sure they have the right time.
Thank you, Trudy. Pretty important that they know.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Davey, I also wanted to ask about the recycling bag program. I've not seen a whole lot after our initial presentation a month or so ago.
That is true. We've actually implemented it, but because of the bridge construction, we've been pushing information out on it, and so we got the information together to promote that program. We'll be doing that this week now that construction project is over, but town staff has been collecting those bags for a few weeks now. We've received 3 of our recycling containers from the company that we went through. We're purchasing our own as well. We will be placing them throughout parks in town and town buildings such as Town Hall, the Police Department, the Fort Mill Community Center. So we'll be promoting all of those sites for all of the public to bring their plastic grocery bags. We're collecting plastic grocery bags.
And not trash.
Not trash, but once we collect 500 pounds of those, we can qualify for a recycled bench for one of our parks. So we're very excited about that program. And again, be looking on our town website and our Facebook page for that information this week.
Okay, good. I have a pile.
I have about 400.
Yeah,
pounds in my garage.
exactly. I have
I've been
been
holding.
saving, and yeah, I've been saving, and my husband is not happy, so we need to clean it out.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Hopefully we'll get more than one bench.
I
All
think
right.
Jamie and I could probably do one on our own right now.
Any other comments?
The swings in the park are well used, and they're looking real good.
They are. I love them. I love them. It's such a sweet section. I like the flowers down at the foot of Main that dress that up. The flowers on Main. I'm just so pleased with the ambiance of our downtown. It's
bought me
looking good.
Potato plant for my front porch this year.
There you go. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you so much. Y'all have a great week.
Okay.